this situation keeps getting stranger as a Kevin Durant trade is imminent for the Phoenix Suns, and Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors are poking their head in, trying to insert themselves in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, according to multiple reports. Now, the asking price would be very significant in terms of making a trade happen with the Phoenix Suns to beat out all the other teams that are vying and jockeying for the superstar out there for Phoenix, despite his age and injury history. But this situation just keeps getting wilder. The Raptors have made it clear they are trying to land a big fish via trade this summer, trying to take this team out of the rebuild and start to get back into that contending windows for this upcoming season. Started with Brandon Ingram, and now KD is next on their radar, along with Giannis and a lot of other names out there this offseason. But frankly, the reporting coming out might have some Toronto Raptors fans confused, fired up, and everything in regards to what they're planning on doing. So we're going to break it all down out here in this video. Folks, of course, if you want to stay up to date with everything going on with this Toronto Raptors team, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Over 47% of our viewers haven't hit the sub button just yet, and we want to make sure you're staying up to date with everything regarding this Toronto Raptors team. And frankly, this offseason's been nuts, and we're almost close to that 38,000 subscriber mark. But let's jump into it, because there's been a lot of stuff coming out regarding this KD situation, as Brian Windhorst revealed yesterday that Kevin Durant is expected to be traded in the coming weeks. So this deal is imminent. This deal is coming fast. It is a deal that we should all expect here now at this point. There was a long stretch of time where it looked like the Phoenix Suns might try to salvage the situation and keep KD on their roster and all of that, but a deal is imminent, and frankly, there's no real future with Kevin Durant out there on the Phoenix Suns. So why are we bringing this up as Raptors? It's because we know we're after big fish, but Jake Fisher, as I broke down in a recent video, said that Toronto has likewise been painted by numerous NBA figures as a potential trade suitor for Durant, particularly if Giannis Antetokounmpo doesn't reach the open market. The Raptors, furthermore, would figure to have a more realistic shot at assembling a competitive trade offer for Durant compared to the mammoth offers the Bucks would inevitably seek for Antetokounmpo's services. So this, of course, with the reports coming out over the recent days about Giannis, trade market not evolving for Giannis. Shams did double down as reporting about Giannis's future still being in question with Milwaukee today, but basically Jake Fisher saying that if Giannis isn't available, the Raptors are going to go into the mix for KD. Now, this came up a few days ago. So we saw this, and then basically over the past couple days, the Spurs have really emerged as heavy favorites for Kevin Durant in one of these moves. So the Spurs, the Rockets, the Knicks, the T-Wolves have been really in the mix. Windhorst came out and talked about the Knicks' interest in making one of these moves happen. The T-Wolves have been interested since the trade deadline. The Rockets have a bunch of the Suns picks. So there's a bunch of teams that just make a ton of sense. The Raptors, however, not in the top of these odds. So we look at this, we look at a lot of people coming out and saying a Spurs deal looks imminent or already made, discussed, and it's going to be made official after the finals, whatever the heck's going on. It felt like the Toronto Raptors were falling out of the mix for a Kevin Durant trade. And then Shams drops a little bombshell about the teams being interested, teams being discussed. But, in terms of everything that's coming out, there were a few reply tweets by guys like Kevin O'Connor and people. I should have had the screenshot for that there, but saying there could be some wild card teams out there in the mix for Kevin Durant as well. There are multiple wild card teams trying to jockey their way in for this Kevin Durant sweepstakes. So, let's loosely link to the Toronto Raptors given other reporting and stuff, but those four teams that I brought up here are the ones that are favorite, that are talked about most from Shams and then the Miami Heat as well. So why are we talking about the Toronto Raptors? Well, this is where things get more interesting. So just last night, after the Pacers OKC Game 3, which is an absolutely wild game, Mark Stein went out there on Sportsnet and said this on air, that the Raptors are certainly coming up in those conversations for Kevin Durant. Are the Raptors trying to force their way into them? I think a lot of people around the league believe the answer to that is yes. So the Toronto Raptors are trying to force their way in to the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, trying to jump their way in to these, trade talks, these trade discussions for Kevin Durant. And this trade is obviously imminent. This trade is coming up very, very soon in the coming weeks. And Masai Ujiri, it's been talked about from Brian Windhorst, you watch any of the channels, is trying to land one of these big fish. He's sick of the Toronto Raptors being in this rebuilding, retooling era. And frankly, a lot of people aren't talking about it as well. Masai Ujiri's in the last year of his contract. There's a new ownership regime coming in. And it might feel like, Masai Ujiri's job is safe. It's this, it's that. He's talked about his tight relationship with, the current ownership group. Everything is fine. It's hunky-dory. Everything is great. But we've seen Edward Rogers with the Raptors were coming off of an NBA championship to be like, Masai Ujiri can leave. He can let him walk. He's too expensive. Let's get Bobby Webster out there in the mix. if the Raptors continue down this rebuild, it continues to be messy, and apparently, the ownership is happy with how the Toronto Raptors are growing, developing, and stuff, but that's in the back of your mind. And so, hey, we should probably push the timeline ahead a little notch before this thing gets a little out of hand and Masai Ujiri ends up losing his job, or Edward Rogers has a lot more bargaining power in terms of this next contract negotiation. So that is, a reality that we do have to deal with in terms of what could be leading the Toronto Raptors to make a big move like this. And then on top of it, I saw this report. So what other teams, and these are the wildcard teams that were kind of referenced out there in these Shams discussions, like in the subsequent tweets from the Shams discourse. And then Brett Siegel, Clutch Points, came out and said Toronto. I also heard Cleveland, but I couldn't get a firm confirmation on it, so I'm skeptical that actually happened, but Toronto for sure. So Toronto is trying to get in the mix. The Raptors are trying to get in the mix for Kevin Durant and find any way to land one of these big star players and make one of these trades happen. Now, I get it. Looking at the box score in terms of how good Kevin Durant is, right? KD is a guy that, 27 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.2 blocks, 0.8 steals. Like, we've seen LeBron James play at an all-NBA level at the age of 40. So KD coming off a season where he looks phenomenal. Yes, he's dealt with more injuries. Yes, he is aging. Yes, there's a significant risk. But even the efficiency has remained at an elite level, shooting 43% from three-point line, 50% on corner threes. KD is still a phenomenal basketball player. And yes, it is a risk with his age, but there still has been indications. There's no indications of KD slowing down based off his most recent season, maybe a little bit on the defensive end of the floor. He's still an extremely valuable piece and is going to command a serious, trade back out there on the market. Now, the Suns are, according to recent reports, and we discussed this previously out there on the channel, about how the Suns are looking for a center, as their center spot has just been decimated in terms of actual quality players since they traded away DeAndre Ayton. So they want a center, they want some young pieces, they want to replenish their draft capital. That's what they're looking to do in a Kevin Durant trade. That's what's going on. That's what's happening in terms of these trade negotiations. And the Raptors can put together a package that would frustrate Raptors fans, I think, in terms of giving up Jakob Poeltl and RJ Barrett in a deal back for Kevin Durant, just given the age, how well they've been playing and stuff like that. But Big Yak is a top 10 center in the NBA. He's averaging 15, 10, 3, 1.2 blocks, 1.2 steals. Elite defensively. He's shown flashes of, he knocked down a couple three-point shots at the end of last season, but 29 years old, a guy that very much would be coveted across the NBA for any team looking for a center. So Poeltl being thrown in the mix, RJ Barrett combined, make the money work. I mean, RJ, 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. It also looks like Bradley Beal is going to be on his way out from the Phoenix Suns. So, RJ Barrett being, thrown in to be the replacement piece out there at that guard position. Tyus Jones is likely leaving too. So backcourt with Devin Booker, RJ Barrett would be an interesting sort of tandem there. Again, not a package just given KD's age I'm jumping at the bit to really go at and stuff, and the Raptors would be very decimated at the center position themselves, dealing away Jakob Poeltl, unless they're able to acquire Kama Malawach. If Malawach is there at number 9, if he's available at that number 9 overall selection, then I'm much more intrigued by, I'm more willing to deal away Jakob Poeltl because you have Shamshay out there, maybe could potentially be a backup player for this Raptors team, backup center for this Raptors team next season. Malawach and, Shamshay, that could be a very interesting front line for the Raptors. Then you have an elite scoring wing, out there in terms of this team. Like you have KD, Brandon Ingram, and Scottie Barnes out there at your wings. You have Malawach at the center spot, and then IQ out there, that PG position. And then off your bench, you have Jacoby Walter, Gradey Dick. Like offensively, we would be an absolute, we'd be phenomenal on the offensive end of that team. Then you'd trust Malawach to be the anchor on defense and move in that direction. So, again, I think selling low on RJ doesn't make a ton of sense, but if we're going to be trading him anyways, and KD's out there, the bigs available, you can get Malawach for sure if that's locked in. Like, I'm going to be sad, but I'm going to look at it and be optimistic for next year. Like, I'm going to look at I'm actively saying I don't want it to happen, but it's interesting. It's interesting. So we'll see how things play out. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. You guys best take as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing now. Cheers.